Oh, that works. Okay. Hey, give me a second so I can double check. This is what happens when you're a one person team. I have to do all the things. I don't think I even deleted it the last time I did it. I was supposed to delete the beginning and the end, but I don't think I did that. Let me check the. Is it this mic?
Check the. Is it this mic?
Because it's supposed to be this mic.
Is it this mic? It's supposed to be this mic.
Okay. I guess this is the mic. I finally figured out the mic situation. Okay, cool. Last time I was using this, anyways, whatever, figured it out. Okay. Hey, y'all, welcome back to my channel, or just welcome if you're new. My name is Eboni Harris, and I'm a relationship therapist based in Houston, Texas. So let me go ahead and move this in front of me, actually. So I did a review of Love is Blind a couple weeks ago, and I was supposed to come back and do the follow-up, and it's been a lot happening, but I'm back. I wanted to make sure I do this because I'm really trying to, stay on top of mind. When I start something, I finish it. And so I just finished my sessions for the day. I actually finished pretty early today, which is dope. So before I went into jumping into other work that I needed to do, I was like, let me jump on this live and talk about these episodes. It's been a week and a half. I think that's when it came out. And so I'm sure everybody's just over it at this point, but I wanted to share my 2 cents. This probably won't be as long of a video as the other one, because the other video I had to review all the episodes because I couldn't do part 1, part 2, part 3. But this will still have some, I'll still be talking about my thoughts and opinions and trying to remember, because I have watched it a while ago, but I do have my notes here. So you'll see me looking down as I talk. But these are my thoughts, and feel free to drop in the chat if you agree, disagree. I really enjoyed last time. I had a few people that were on live kind of telling me oh yeah, that's exactly what I thought, or that's the issue. And I also, if I can remember, I might talk about some of the things that we've learned since. I don't really get into I'm not a person that watches TV and then does research outside of TV. I'm not a person that watches a show and then I learn everything about every person and what their lives look like. I watch the show, cool, and typically I'm pretty done with it. I even last when I was talking to one of my friends about the show, we kind of went down who's still married and who's not from the previous seasons. And I was all off. I thought it was I think it's only 2 couples before this season that are actually still married. I believe it was only 2, but I might be mistaken. It might be somebody from last season, but whatever. Okay. So we're just going to go through, just talk about what's happened in the episode, any opinions or thoughts. I gave a lot more of my oh, this feels like this comes from childhood stuff and all of that. I did a lot more of that in my last video. I don't know how much of that I'm going to do in this one, because we pretty much know who the characters are and what they have going on. But I will talk about any surprises, or, just even if I need to admit that I was wrong about anything, I will acknowledge that. So final episode was the weddings, and the last episode we stopped with Chelsea saying yes, of course, and Kwame hadn't said anything. Jump on. Kwame says yes. Last time I talked, I said I thought Kwame should say no. I wasn't sure if he would, but it just based on what we saw, because I want to be clear. Everybody's always editing. Okay. Based on what we saw, it just seemed like Kwame wasn't sure. It seemed like he, and not even with the whole I'm not sure because of the Micah thing. It seems like he wasn't sure just because of the way that it felt like everything was moving kind of quickly and moving to Chelsea was getting everything she wanted, but he wasn't necessarily being able to get what he needed. But that was my thought. If still, even afterwards, felt like he was just kind of present, it didn't feel like he fully wanted to be there. But it might be also he's on TV. And I said this before, I don't know his personality, but his personality seemed a lot more vibrant in the pods. And then after the Micah situation, it just seemed like he started to go into kind of robot. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but it seems like he wasn't fully present. But I really hope that they have discussed some of those harder topics. I hope that they figured out a way to kind of have a conversation and for him to be able to express when he is like, well, that's not something I want to do, and when does the compromise get to come my way. I hope they've had some of those conversations, but I know it's been a year since they recorded, so and yeah, so I don't know. Paul and Micah made Paul go first, which I felt was a very, I'm gonna use manipulative. Some people feel like it wasn't. I feel like it's manipulative. Her reasoning, I understand. Well, I didn't at first, but now I think I get it. I understand her saying, I don't want to. Her reasoning to me is, I don't want to be vulnerable and say yes first, and then you say yes just to appease me, just so I don't look bad or something like that. That was her reasoning. I don't know if I believe it. Again, I don't know these people, but I don't know if I believe it. I feel like either A, it's I don't want to be vulnerable and be embarrassed, or B, I don't want to be the bad guy. So if you say no, then you're the bad guy. But I mean, again, don't know these people, so I'm not sure. But Michael was hurt. I was kind of surprised at how hurt she was, because it did feel like to me, it seemed like they kind of were on the same page, or had some like agreement in like, we love each other, we miss each other, we really like being around each other. But it didn't seem like they were just either one of them like gung-ho about the wedding piece. But the way she reacted afterwards, and I think I was confused by something she said in the previous episode. I thought she was saying, if he said, I don't want him to say yes for fear of losing me, in my mind that meant, so even if we say no, we could still be together. But apparently I think she meant, I don't want to say yes first, and then he says yes just to appease me, and so I would rather him go first, right? So she said she was all about to, she was definitely going to say yes, but that's why she wanted him to go first. But yeah, so it just felt a little it just felt manipulative to not just do it. They told you to go first. And because he was the one that seemed to be on edge about making a decision, but she chose not to do it that way. Her business. Brett and Tiffany both said yes. Not surprised. I think if either one of them would have said no, everybody would have been like, what? But they both said yes. They both, it just seemed to work for them. And I think it was just the conversations that they've had, or I don't know. It seemed like, I don't know if they had the necessary conversations in the pods, but they seem very much present in like, this is what I want to do, and we're just going to figure it out, whatever that means, right? The whole Brett and the pants debacle, it was interesting. I was surprised to see a reaction like that, but I know that there are people that are very particular. I'm not that person. Like, I will want things to fit right, but I'm also very much a person that's like, all right, like we just gonna go from here. I'm gonna have a good time regardless, right? But so it was just kind of like the way he was, and I understand it also. The way it came across was kind of like diva-ish, I think is a word, but I'm sure it comes from like anxiety and stress, and like just like, I want this day to be perfect. I want this to go well, right? So I don't want to feel like uncomfortable on my wedding day. I don't want to feel like I don't look good, and he is very particular, it seems, about the way he dresses and his style and all of that. So it was interesting. But the real MVP was I think his name was Lucia. I don't remember, but the seamstress. I was like, oh, I love her. And I only go on Twitter. I have a Twitter. I don't use it. I only go on there to like see what people are saying about like trending topics, or if it's something that I'm like, I wonder what people say about that. So I went on there and I saw everybody giving her love, which I loved. And I was very curious if she's gotten more business. Hopefully she does, but I know she got a lot of 5-star reviews and stuff like that. Oh, and I wanted to point out, this isn't anything major, but her dress is different, because when she was dressed, I was like, man, I like her dress. But I remember specifically at the fitting, I did not like her dress. So she did not pick the dress that they showed her picking. She had a completely different dress. So I thought that was interesting. I actually liked the dress she picked, that she wore to the wedding. I didn't like the one she picked when they went to try on dresses. Bliss and Zach, both of them said yes. Wasn't surprised by that. And they both danced to the song. I Hope She Danced, which is really cute. And they did a whole thing with them with that. So that was cute. Nothing really major that I wasn't surprised. I wasn't fully sure if Bliss would say yes, but she seems all for it, and whatever. So that was the final episode. To me, no real big surprises other than Kwame saying yes. I didn't expect Paul and Micah to be together. So no big surprises. So now moving on to the reunion. So I was not one of those people that waited to watch the reunion. I am, if anything is scheduled at a time, anything TV wise or anything like that, I'm probably not gonna make it. Where did I go? I was doing something that night. I think I was supposed to go to a birthday dinner, but I ended up not doing that. So I don't know. I ended up doing something that night. So that was not even anywhere. Oh no, was it? That was Sunday. I forget it was Sunday. I keep thinking they did on Friday. Sunday, I did. I went to my sister's birthday. We went out to have food and drinks and da. So I did that on Sunday. I was like, we went at 6. I was like, I'll watch it later. And boy, am I glad I did. So we got back to the house and we turned it on to try to watch it at like 11 o'clock at night. And it just keeps showing like, nope. And then I went on Twitter because that's where I go. And I was like, oh, other people are having issues. So I went to bed. And then I think we tried to watch it the next morning and we still were having issues. But then that's when I saw that it said it'll come out at 12 or something. It was something, or maybe it said it on Netflix. We ended up watching it that day. Again, to me, it was a little lackluster, but I understand, it was, I get everybody's complaints. I'll say that. So, I'm just going to go through different people. I don't even know if I think I wrote something for everybody, but I'm not 100% sure. And I actually had wrote down some questions that I would ask if I was the host. So I'm probably just going to say that as I go through it, as opposed to like, I was going to do a completely separate video, but I just have not had the time because of some other stuff that's going on. So to me, I get, people's frustration with Vanessa Lachey. She was kind of one note. It just felt very like, she just wasn't, to me, she wasn't very interesting. Like the biggest thing, her 2 things that she talked about was babies and holding the men accountable. Like that felt like that was her whole goal, is babies and holding men accountable, which I could understand because you have a partner there, a husband there that hopefully would play the other side. That is not what happened. Nick Lachey really just contributed nothing. I heard a few bad jokes, which I actually missed when I watched. I heard them on the replay, but he really didn't contribute anything. Like, I think it could have made more sense if like she was on the men and he was on the women, but then I feel like then that would have been a whole thing about why is he attacking these women, right? So I get maybe why he didn't, but it just felt like, I feel like obviously there was not obviously, it didn't feel like there was a real discussion. And it also kind of feels like he's in a space of like, I'm not trying to make my wife upset because I got to go home with her. So he wasn't really like challenging or pushing back or anything like that. So I don't even know why he was there. And then Vanessa Lachey just really wasn't that great to me. So I'll start with Paul and Micah. I'm not going in the order. I'm just going in the order of the notes I wrote. So they talked about Paul and Micah. I don't even feel like, and again, this is a while ago, I don't even feel like they addressed Micah being like a bully. I think it was a little bit, they talked about the Mean Girls thing with Irina, but they didn't really focus as much on like Micah was right there with her. Like it didn't feel like they focused on it a lot, but whatever. I feel like, to me, like hearing Micah kind of talk, it was still very confusing. I'm still not 100% sure where she was on the show. And I mean, I guess I hear the word she's saying. So she's saying she was definitely going to say yes. She was blindsided by the fact that he said he didn't see her as a nurturing type, or he didn't see her as a mother because he never got to see her nurturing side. He did kind of clean it up and say, what I mean is like, I didn't see us as parents, but whatever. She was blindsided by hearing him say that. So she was hurt by that and felt confused because he had never mentioned it to her before. And so she was hurt by that. My biggest frustration, and this is probably just because I'm a therapist, tears don't stop no show. And I say this all the time to my clients, if you can't talk, okay, we'll give you a second and we'll have you calm down. We might even change the topic, but that doesn't mean we don't address the topic. And so I feel like just in general on that show, people would start crying and it would feel like, and even like, I don't even remember seeing tears for her. I just remember her, doing that. So I don't know if she actually had tears. She might have. I might have just missed it. Irina, I definitely didn't see any tears from. But I feel like people cry, and then that's the hint to like stop a conversation. Tears is not a reason not to stop a conversation, just like anger is not a reason, just like walking away is not a reason, right? If a conversation needs to be had, a conversation is going to be had. We might calm down and not talk about it right there in that moment, we might try to say like, okay, you're overwhelmed because you can't get your words out, but having some tears drop, I can cry and talk at the same time. I can cry and have a conversation at the same time, or I can cry, get that out, get the emotion out, and then come back to it and articulate a conversation. And I felt like the tears were kind of a scapegoat. I mean, not scapegoat. I felt like it was cop out. Like I feel like because they were crying, then Nick, I mean, yeah, Nick definitely wasn't gonna do it. So Vanessa didn't like push a lot. It was kind of like, okay, we hear you, moving on. Like it just, I feel like there were a lot of the questions. I feel like there needs to be conversations around one, like, do you understand how your behavior impacts other people? They didn't even talk about her friend who was a butthole and her expectation that Paul was to be nice to her. Hey, so why do you have an expectation for him to like care about your friend and be nice to her when she is clearly being rude to him and is not very nice? It doesn't seem at all. I would have brought up the fact that like, oh, so you tend to choose to be around mean people because that your friend was mean, Irina was mean, whatever. I also feel like I understand that she was crying and I understand she felt blindsided, but just because you feel that way doesn't make it a fact. I don't know if he necessarily blindsided her because he wasn't telling you. Like blindsided is like y'all come to the reunion, he's never said it and then he says it to you. I won't say that, whatever. She could have been blindsided, but I feel like it was very much like, I feel like he was like hiding this thing or whatever, where my opinion is you are looking for what will make me want to be with this person, and you're looking for, are there things that I feel like are missing? And I feel like Paul until that very moment was very much like, I don't know, like I like her, like, you know, like it feels good, but also there's something that's not right. And she made it very clear that she's not the most affectionate or nurturing person. I feel like when she was in a pod with Micah and was kind of, I mean, not Micah, with Kwame and kind of mentioned whatever. So I feel like that wasn't the fact that like she was one of the mean girls in the pod. The fact that she made it kind of clear that like, oh, you like her because she validates you more. And basically that's not really my style. The fact that she was a mean girl outside of the pods, like, why would that come across as nurturing? And I think the thing is they're like, well, how can a man judge you on what kind of mother you could be? He can't because he doesn't know, because obviously motherhood changes a lot of stuff. And there are people that I know personally in my life who are not the most nurturing people and obviously love the heck out of their kids. I wouldn't even say they're the most nurturing parent either, but they are more than they ever were before they got married. But if I am dating you as a partner, I feel like people were jabbing him or getting mad at him for saying that was a reason, because he didn't, apparently they had a conversation of him not knowing he wanted to have kids. And if I do want to have kids, I don't know if I see, you know, what I hope my kids experience in you. Like that's, I feel like I hear all the time people say like, well, I don't know if he will be an active dad, or I don't know what kind of dad. Like, so if you don't know what kind of, I don't know. I just felt like it was a lot of judgment on him even saying that. Like, you should not have an opinion about what kind of mother she would be. And it's like, well, if I'm going to marry you and have kids with you, I think it's okay that I have an opinion, but my opinion, you know, whatever. I don't feel like Paul articulated himself very well. It seems like he didn't want to, I think he is very, very focused on not sounding like the bad guy. And so when you do that, sometimes it feels inauthentic, right? I think sometimes you do have to say things that are hurtful and mean. That does not make you a bad person. It just means you've said something that hurts somebody's feelings. Like, and I think sometimes we get so caught up on wanting to not hurt feelings because I don't want to be a bad guy. I don't want them to think of me in a bad way. But the reality is, if you're human, sometimes my opinions will hurt your feelings because that is my opinion. And that's not, it doesn't align with what you see, who you see yourself as, or what you think about yourself. And if you're asking me about why I didn't choose this person, it's based on my opinion of this person. It's based on my experience with this person. This person hasn't shown me some of the qualities that I would want in a wife. And while I like her and I enjoy her and all of that, maybe everybody kept saying, well, she's just like your mom. Maybe he didn't feel like his mom was the most nurturing person. And so he wants it for his kids. Like, anyways, whatever. Point. I get frustrated because I feel like there's so much judgment on. I'm a big person on like, keep your opinions to yourself. Nobody cares. But this is a situation where your opinion is all that matters. His opinion of Micah and who she is and what she, how she showed up and all of that, I feel like is all that mattered. So whatever. I also agree with him kind of saying he didn't want, not asking for her to change her character, like not saying like, hey, you're not nurturing enough, can you be more nurturing so I can see if you can be a wife to me? Because sometimes it feels like, is this a character? Like if this is just who you are, I can't change who you are. We can talk about your behaviors, we can talk about like, I want someone, I guess if I want someone who can cook, or someone who likes to clean, or someone who like shows care when someone's sick, or that leans into uncomfortable situations, maybe those are conversations you can have. And maybe he could have had that direct conversation. But to just tell someone, I don't see you as nurturing and I need to see that to marry you, I understand his perspective. I think it could go either way. I think you can tell somebody that, and a lot of times it won't be received well. Let's just be honest. But I think you can. And I feel like Micah has proven that she doesn't do well when people try to come to her and have a conversation. She deflects, she gaslights, whatever. But you can have the conversation, but I also don't think there's anything wrong with him choosing not to have the conversation. I've known you for 2 weeks, or sorry, a month. I've known you for a month. I've known you for 6 weeks. Like if we're still in that space, and yes, those are conversations you want to have, but maybe at some point during the pause, he mentioned that being nurtured, or having kids, or what, I don't know. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But I can understand why you're not going to sit someone down and say, hey, if you're not nurturing, I won't marry you. Because it feels like, then if she starts to act in that way, do you really know who she is? And I think this goes into like this whole belief around like people should change for you and they should love you enough to do what you want them to do. And I could do a whole other video on that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with kind of saying like, I'm just looking to see who you are. And if who you are doesn't fit who I am, then that's fine and we can move on. But sometimes people want to make people fit into what they want them to be. And so it's like, well, you should have just told me and I could have become that. But if that's not you, it's going to take a lot more work than me telling you for you to become a nurturing person. My beliefs. And it takes a lot more work if that's the problem. It's going to take a lot more work. So I'm trying to do the couples. I feel like the other couples that really didn't have anything. Brett and Tiffany were cute. They were fine. Oh, I forgot to mention Tiffany made the little joke about like going to have sex, and then they made it like they really were going to show footage of it. But yeah, so they're cute. I thought that was a cute little joke or whatever. And hopefully they consummated their marriage and had a great time. Nothing really stood out with them because to me, even throughout the show, and it's funny because like we loved, like they were the favorite couple, but they were boring because they were the favorite couple, because healthy isn't always as entertaining as we would like to think it is, right? Healthy people that communicate, that support each other, that do nice things for each other aren't always fun, right? We want the drama, we want the toxicity, we want all of that. And so I think they're great. I love them. I like the way they interact with each other. It seems like they just really care about each other and like each other. Now, what does that mean lifelong? Who knows? But it seems like if nothing else, they're kind of like, they knew what they wanted. They knew the type of relationship they wanted. They had the conversations they needed to have. And they made some decisions that we didn't even know about. He kind of mentioned that he didn't even live in Seattle. Like he was driving every day. Like they never mentioned that. So they found a way to make it work. So, and then I think Bliss and Zach, I didn't write anything really about either. I don't think, nope. Again, nothing major there. It felt like they were trying to make something between Bliss and Irina, and Bliss was like, I'm married. I got my man. I don't really care. That's what it felt like to me. So she wasn't really tripping. Marshall, Jackie, and Josh. I do feel like Jackie not showing up was whack. And the interview was even more whack. Like, I don't feel like they really got to the root of anything. Again, no questions around, when did you know that you weren't interested in Marshall? Were you just choosing him because you knew that, you needed to pick something different because you always pick the same type of people? Do you feel like you handled that whole situation fairly? Were you actively participating in the process? Because for it to be a conversation of you're jabbing at him, you're making comments, you're doing all of this, and he makes one jab at you and you're done. Even if he said the word or not, right? Because that's the whole debate is, did he say the word? He says he didn't. He says she had a strong jaw, looked like a man, which is not okay. She's calling him sweet and sensitive and feminine and soft and all of that stuff, which is also not okay. But if you're and that's that whole putting out what you can't handle. A lot of people do that, right? They put it out, they push people away and all of that. But when someone, okay, we're joking, let me come back at you. Now that's the end of the relationship. I can't be with you at all, right? So he was too soft when he wasn't aggressive or anything in bed, but then you don't like the fact that he jokes with you in the same harsh way that you joke with him. okay, girl. Like, I feel like the questions should have been a little bit more like, where's your accountability? What did you do wrong? How did you handle this horribly? What could you have done differently? How did you let your life stuff impact this relationship? Were you even ready for the show? Because she literally in the last scene of the show was like, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I shouldn't be with anybody. Um, just a lot. Like, it's just a lot. And Josh, I don't have an opinion on him because I feel like nothing he ever said throughout any of the show was significant. Like, even their conversation where she's like, well, I just saw him and that's why she wanted to go and meet him for the date. That conversation, he was drunk. It didn't feel like he was saying anything significant. It was just, oh, okay, he's cute. He seems more my speed, which to me, he's not the most masculine. If we're talking about traditional Black masculinity specifically, because I don't know if Josh is Black, but that seems to be her ideal of like what it is. It seems like she has a very like stereotypical Black masculinity, what it's supposed to look like. Josh doesn't necessarily fit that either. So I don't really know. I don't know. Marshall, I felt like Marsha saying she has a strong jaw is equivalent to him calling her sweet. They're both derogatory. They're both rude. They're both inappropriate. So I don't feel like one was worse than the other. But what it sounds like is Marsha met her at the level she was at and she didn't like that. And so now she's done, which is not okay. And I like the way when I did see some of the receipts and like she never said, well, we were going back and forth and it was a joke and I started it. None of that. Just how dare you say that to me? And I think that happens a lot. Specifically with women toward men, where men have often, they have to like, not have to, but, handle women with care and don't be too aggressive or whatever the case may be. But then women tend to kind of test that line sometimes when it comes to men. Like, I'm going to say whatever I want to you. I'm going to be snippy. I'm going to make jokes. I'm going to basically be a butthole to you. But then the moment you say it to me, it becomes like, how dare you do that to me? I can't believe you did that to me. Right. So I don't think that's okay. I feel like treat it the same, right? We're both humans, and sure, it could have hurt your feelings, and that's very possible. Then let's have a conversation about the fact that maybe we shouldn't be having these type of jokes with each other, right? Because it might have hurt Marshall's feelings as well. But maybe he's like, you know what, whatever, she's joking. I get her personality, so I'm cool with that. But if it can't go both ways, then maybe we shouldn't be having these conversations. Or maybe we shouldn't be playing in this way. I agree with him when he said he got robbed twice. When they asked him, like, well, how do you feel about it? And he was like, well, I feel like I got robbed twice. I got robbed because I didn't even realize in the contracts, like, you have to go to the final wedding. And so even if we're struggling, you're supposed to make it to the final, which I believe most people do. So that makes sense. You have to make it and you make that decision there, even if we know we're struggling. And he got robbed of that experience and he got robbed of the reunion to even have a full conversation about it. So it's not like he could sit here and just like bash on her the whole time because she's not there to defend herself and he doesn't want to be that guy. So whatever. I also feel like Vanessa was so excited about there being multiple marriages and multiple relationships that she didn't challenge anybody enough. Like, I feel like it was just like, oh, okay, you're with Josh. Look, that worked out for you. You met him on the show. We did a good job without challenging her methods or the way that she did it or whether or not it was okay. She was just excited to say, look at our success rate this time, right? But I feel like it was the same with Zach and Irina and Bliss. I do feel like that situation is a little different, but even with that, I don't feel like it was challenged enough of like, whoa, like you obviously you picked wrong. You say that, she say that, Irina say, everybody says it, but how do you feel about just coming back and then automatically going to find Bliss? So whatever. Like, I just feel like she didn't challenge that stuff enough. Irina, I forgot about her because really nothing really to say about her. Her apology seemed it didn't really make sense. She wasn't really saying anything. It wasn't even a full apology, I feel like, but she said she apologized to everybody separately. She did say she was sorry for hurting people and things like that. So I'll take it. It seemed performative. It seemed like I didn't realize I was going to come across that bad, or and maybe she didn't, but the fact that the cameras were there to catch it, this is just who you are. And so again, you can't blame editing or anything like that when you said the things and did the things. Like when both you and Michael were being insensitive to different people's experiences and things like that. So it just seemed performative. It didn't seem very genuine. She didn't really say anything to me that like stood out because it just seemed like, okay, I gotta apologize. I gotta like stand up for myself. And I forgot about the flirty thing. They brought up the flirty thing and asked Paul, and I think Paul was like, well, at one point it seemed like he was like, I said this before, I felt like Paul was flirty. I said that when he was in the pods, when he first started meeting women, I was like, oh, he's very flirty, which is fine because that's the point of that. But I think he just has a flirty nature. And so I don't think I didn't think he was very aware of like the flirtiness, but apparently he was. And it was just like him and Micah have like agree and like you can flirt with people, whatever, as long as it doesn't get physical, then you're good. So apparently he recognized that she was flirting. And so he was flirting back, but he wasn't interested and he wouldn't cross that line. So whatever. And then the whole thing with the bridesmaid butt slap thing, I thought was stupid. It clearly like he was like, oh, my bad. Like he put his hand to the side and was up, well, it was down. But he was like, he bumped her and was like, oh, like, or excuse me, which people do all the time. So whether he touched her butt or not, I can't tell, but the hand was there, but it did not feel intentional, but whatever. Again, I don't really get into a lot of the stuff that happened afterwards. Along with the Kwame, that not being his sister thing. I don't know where that came from, but whatever. So yeah, so I think that's it. Overall, I felt like it was quite boring. Wasn't anything interesting. They definitely could have recorded it and edited out stuff and made it look a lot better versus whatever that was. So and I feel like if they had recorded it and they would have been there for like 4 or 5 hours recording, and then they could have really hit some of those good things. But I think I don't know if they're gonna try to keep up with the live format or not. I could care less. I don't even know. I don't know. I was about to say I don't know if I'm watching next season, but I might because it's a good binge watch. So yeah, so those are my thoughts. Just want to jump on and share. Hopefully, you find this interesting. Let me know what your thoughts were about the season finale and the reunion. If you have any thoughts, or were you surprised by anything, or do you have any thoughts about like just what you wish they would have talked about? And I'll catch you in the next video. That's all. Bye. Oops.